He stood in the blazing afternoon sun, his clothes torn and faded, the dust of the road clinging to his face like a second skin. His hair was tangled, his shoes mismatched, and the old bag slung across his back looked ready to fall apart at any moment. Yet there was something about his eyes, calm, steady, and quietly burning, that made people look twice. The man was no ordinary beggar, though to anyone passing by, that's exactly what he appeared to be. On that sweltering day, in front of the towering gates of Silverline Motors, the largest Mercedes dealership in the city, this ragged man made a statement that would echo across town. He pointed at the gleaming line of trucks parked before him and said in a voice both hoarse and certain, "I'll take 5 of those." The salesmen standing nearby burst into laughter. Their amusement filled the air, sharp and cruel. To them, it was just another crazy drifter with dreams bigger than his worth. But what they didn't know was that this man's story ran deeper than any luxury vehicle in their lot. A story of loss, redemption, and a promise made long ago. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of never judging a book by its cover, then please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Royal Stories, because sometimes, the most broken souls carry the most powerful stories. Years earlier, the man's name had been James Holloway, once the proud owner of a mid-sized transport company, a man who believed hard work could conquer anything. His company, Holloway Freight, started with a single used truck and a dream. Over a decade, he built it from the ground up, hiring local drivers, giving jobs to veterans, widows, and struggling single fathers. His trucks carried food, aid, and medicine to rural towns that others ignored. People called him Mr. Reliable. But then came the storm, not of weather, but of fate. A chain of bad contracts, one dishonest partner, and a tragic accident that claimed his wife and son in a highway crash. The insurance company denied his claim, the bank repossessed his assets, and within 6 months, the empire he built turned to dust. James disappeared. For nearly 4 years, no one knew where he went. Some said he'd gone mad, others that he drank himself to death. The truth was simpler, sadder. He had nothing left. No family, no business, no home. He lived off odd jobs, slept under bridges, and wandered from one town to another with nothing but memories and guilt. But somewhere in that darkness, he made himself a silent promise. He would rebuild, not for himself, but for those who once believed in him. The drivers, the families, the small towns his trucks once served. When James walked into Silverline Motors that day, he had already spent 2 years saving every penny. He worked nights cleaning loading docks, mopping gas stations, and unloading cargo, whatever paid a few dollars. He never begged, he earned. But still, to the world, he looked like a beggar. His face was weathered, his beard unkempt, and his clothes bore the marks of 1,000 sleepless nights. That's why when he approached the sales office and asked for the manager, the young clerks snickered. "Sir," one of them said mockingly, "you're standing in a Mercedes dealership. Maybe try down the street. They sell bicycles." James just smiled, nodding slowly, then repeated his words. "I'll take 5 Mercedes trucks." Their laughter stung, but not because it insulted him. He'd faced worse. It stung because he remembered being in their place once, young and arrogant, thinking worth was measured by appearance. When the manager finally came out, annoyed by the noise, he found James still standing there, patient and polite. "And how do you intend to pay for these trucks?" the manager asked, expecting another laugh. But James reached into his torn bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Inside were cashier's checks, certified, legitimate, totaling nearly $700,000. The laughter stopped. The air went still, and for the first time, Those shiny-eyed clerks saw the ragged man not as a fool, but as something else entirely, a storm in human form. The manager's tone changed instantly, tripping over apologies, offering coffee, water, anything to erase his earlier mockery. But James waved it off. "No need," he said quietly. "Just give me 5 trucks. I have work to do." Within days, the paperwork was complete, and 5 gleaming white Mercedes Actros trucks rolled out of the Silverline lot, each one branded with a single word painted on its side: Reborn. James drove the first one himself, his rough hands gripping the wheel with reverence. He started small again, taking rural delivery contracts others found too unprofitable, carrying food, aid, and school supplies to remote towns that hadn't seen reliable transport in years. Soon, people started recognizing the name again: Holloway Freight. The news of the ragged man who bought 5 Mercedes trucks in cash spread like wildfire. Journalists dug into his past, uncovering the story of the man who lost everything and came back stronger. Interviews followed, investors called, and even the same dealership offered him discounts and partnerships. But James never bragged. He refused fame. He just smiled and said, "This was never about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving myself right." Months later, one of the young clerks who had laughed that day showed up at his office, not to sell, but to ask for a job. James hired him. When the clerk tried to apologize for his behavior, James simply said, "We all start somewhere. I was once like you." That moment, quiet and humble, spoke louder than any triumph. His business flourished again, not as a kingdom built on profit, but as a family built on purpose. James began sponsoring food drives, helping ex-convicts find work, and setting up scholarships for truckers' children. Every act of kindness was a tribute to his wife, to his son, and to the second chance life had given him. Years passed, and when James finally stood once more before that same dealership, the staff greeted him with respect. The manager, now gray-haired, shook his hand and said, "We'll never forget that day." James smiled faintly. "Neither will I," he replied, "because that day reminded me how people judge too quickly, but it also showed me how miracles begin." If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs faith in second chances, and subscribe to Royal Stories for more real, soul-stirring tales of humanity. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind the world that goodness still exists. Sparkle's special request. Comment below, "I believe in second chances," if James's journey moved you, and let's fill this space with hope.